there, my name is Jan Jenkins, and welcome to another video with RYYZN Community Arts as part of our winter programming. This is going to be a special 3-part program in collaboration with Jan Jenkins. Hi Jan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ty. Thanks so much for having me join you today.
Well, thanks for joining us. So Jan, we're going to jump right in. Can you tell us about what we're going to be doing over the course of these 3 videos?
Well, for the first video, we're going to be learning some Zen doodling basics, and we're calling the series of 3 workshops Meditative Meanderings. And in the first one, you'll learn how to do some black and white designs, and we provide you with a couple of reference links online where you can find out more about patterning. And then in the second video, we talk about coloring your artwork. And in the third one, we talk about pre-coloring your artwork. I also show you some information about the different types of supplies that are available for you to use, such as different types of paper, your pens, and that type of thing. So I hope you'll have fun with these videos. And I think the key thing is put on some music you enjoy while you're doing this.
Well, that sounds like fun. I know I'm pretty excited myself to get started, so let's jump into it.
Hi there, my name's Jan Jenkins with RYYZN Artworks. I wanted to show you today how to do some really neat meditative meanderings, also known as Zen doodling. So what I wanted to do was talk to you first off about black and white and about supplies. I, of course, being an artist, I tend to use higher quality, more expensive supplies, but this type of meditative meanderings can be done with any type of paper, any type of pen. There are some limitations if you do that. So I'm going to show you what I like to use, and then I'll show you a couple of tests on how different pens react if you're going to try coloring after the fact. This little demo will be on black and white alone, and then we will go from there. So some of the products I like to use is Canson XL. They have different mediums of paper. This is a thinner, less stiff paper, and this is an actual watercolor paper. So Canson XL products are reasonable priced for the quality that you get. I think you'll find eventually you'd like to work more on this watercolor paper. It's very pleasing to work with and gives you a nice stiffness for your projects. So what I wanted to do was just show you different examples of the different papers. This is a just ordinary printer copy paper. This is the Canson XL mixed media paper, this one here. And then we've got this thicker paper, and it's a watercolor paper. It's a lot more durable when you're working with pen and ink and with colors, and it really presents a nice finish to your work. Okay, so that's the paper products. Now, as far as pens go, you can use an ordinary Bic pen if you'd like. You could use a Sharpie. They come in fairly fine points, not as fine as some of the art pens. And then my favorite product, this is just another ballpoint. And then my favorite products are actually these Faber-Castell pens. Now these Faber-Castell pens come in different sizes. You can get super fine, fine, medium, and brushes as well. So they're really nice to use if you draw with the fine or the medium. You can see you get a thicker line, or with the brush, right? So you get some nice finishes, and the brushes are great for filling in areas that you want lots of dark. Okay, so the next thing I was going to do is talk about pencils and erasers. So I like the white gum erasers. You do have to clean them off a little bit before you start trying to erase pencil marks off your project. And these are actually kind of neat because they're like a pen style, and you can get refills for these. These are Pentel click erasers. As far as pencils go, I prefer an artist quality pencil because the lead is so smooth, and you can get them in different softnesses. You can get HB all the way up to 8B, and the softer it is, the more smudgy it is. So it's good if you have a softer pencil if you want to do shading with your graphite after you've finished doing your inking. So then I wanted to show you, based on different pens, how they react to water, because if you do your black and white first and then you want to go in with color, you have to be mindful as to how your watercolor or whatever coloring agent you're working with is going to react to the pen. Alcohol inks will react differently from watercolors or from acrylic inks, okay? So in this demo, what I've done is I have done a Sharpie here, I've done a regular Bic pen here, and I've done a Faber-Castell here. Now this ink, the reason I like the artist quality pens is they are fade proof and they don't change color, and they're waterproof and permanent. I know Sharpies will change color over time, and so will your ballpoint pens. So I keep these in a Ziploc bag to prevent them from drying out. So I suggest that if you do invest in these pens, that you do that as well. So now I'm just going to demonstrate for you with a little bit of color just to see how these work. Now, the finer the paper you use, the less you should scrub or rub the paper. You just go over it once. And what we're trying to do here is see how smudgeable the ink is if we run our color across it, okay? And so I'm just doing this, and I'm actually kind of pleased with how all these are reacting to the watercolor. Now, I didn't use a very strong color. I just wanted to be able to see how these will react. And actually, the Faber-Castell seems to be reacting a bit more than anything else, and maybe that's because I didn't let it dry long enough. Okay, so I'm going to put that away, and then we'll get into the basics of Zen doodling. All right, and those are the basic shapes. Some of the other things that we do when it comes to meditative meanderings and Zen doodling. Now, you can just go ahead and just do your thing, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of background here. So the first thing is we have these basic shapes that we use when we're doing our artwork. A lot of people are intimidated. Oh, I can't draw this, I can't draw that. Yes, you can. So the basic shapes are a C, an S, a dot, a slash, and a complete circle, right? So those are your basic shapes. And when you're using those shapes, you can see if I'm drawing a leaf, I'm using sort of like a C, like that. Some of these pens I've been using a little bit too much, and some lines, and some more lines, right? Okay. Now, the next step is to look at what you're going to do as far as drawing, and odds and evens. Odds and evens are one thing where artwork seems to look more appealing when there's odds versus evens. So if I draw another leaf here, but 3 seems to look a bit better. So keep that in mind. Odds are nice. The other thing is repeating what you're doing in different places. So I tend to, when I do my Zen doodles, I tend to repeat patterns in more than one place, and it kind of brings a harmony to the artwork. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is embellishing. And embellishing is where you take a plain shape and you start doing some embellishing to it. So for example, adding in the veins on the leaf, adding in some dots like this, and then maybe even going one step further and putting some things around it, and then you could even take it further from there and put some neat little things like that. So that's called embellishing. Same over here, if you're doing lines like this, you could embellish by going and doing, this is called auras, where you actually repeat something. So if I repeated this line and I repeat this line again, that's called auras, and it's a type of embellishing. Okay. Or I could even, instead of sticking with the triangles, I could do this inside there, and you end up with something that looks totally different, right? So there you go. Now the next thing is, again, like flowers. I know there are some flowers that have 4 leaves and 6 leaves, but 5 or 7 seems to look a little neater. The other thing is drawing off the page. So when you do your artwork, it always looks neat. You provide a lot of movement, and you give the viewer the imagination that things are going on beyond your image. When you draw your items, some of your patterning off the page, instead of making it stop right there, you take it off the page. Okay, the last thing I wanted to do was talk about drawing behind. You take a look at something like this artwork here and you think, oh my, how did she get it so complicated? Well, it's called drawing behind. And what you do is you draw your first item, which I did over here, but I'll do it on a separate piece of paper. So for drawing behind, you draw an item, so that's closest to you. And then if you've got something going on behind, you kind of pretend like this, right? And then if you want something behind both of those, again, you draw and you draw. And you notice I'm not making perfect circles. That's not the aim of meditative meanderings. But again, you're getting some depth to your artwork. Right. So that's it for the basics. Now what I'd like to do is talk to you about my process for how I go about doing my art. So what I'll do is I'll take a blank piece of paper and I'll take my pencil and I'll just start drawing some lines on here. So I might end up going like this, and I'm making sure they're not straight, and I might end up going like this, and maybe I even go like that. That's my starting point. I just draw some lines, and they don't have to be straight lines. I could end up on a piece of paper. I'll put 4 dots. I'm just going to make a square. I could end up just going like this, and maybe do another line there and another line there. The whole point is providing some sectioning for your page, and then in each of these sections you can put some patterns. Pattern ideas come from many places. I have 2 places that I like to go to for some information about Zen doodling and patterning, and one is www.tanglepatterns.com. So they have some really neat patterns with step-by-step instructions on how to do those patterns. And some of those patterns might be, for example, you look at the background on this, and these are actually triangles, little triangles that have markings inside them. And they kind of make a neat background in some of these other items as well. So you can kind of see that like that. Okay, so after I've drawn my lines, then what I do, I decide how I want to section this off even further, and I'll typically do this with pencil, and then I will go in with my black pen. So in this case, I took my basic shape here, and now I'm deciding I want thicker borders, because I can erase that pencil. So I'm going to go like this and create some borders around these basic shapes, and then you'll see when I erase them that I have created some added dimension to this artwork, right, by doing that. All right, and then what I decided to do was go ahead and start drawing in some elements. You can see that I've started off with 3 basic elements. I've started off with the zigzag, a U shape, and circles. All right, and so what I'll do is I will typically take my pencil and I will fill in these different spots with different patterns. So here, for example, I'm just going to fill this in. This is an example of drawing off the page or off the segment. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go like this, and over here the same thing. So you can see that I'm drawing off the page on that one, right? And I could do the same thing over here like this. All right. And in here, I'm deciding that I'm going to continue that U shape. So I'm going to go like this. All right. So you can see what I'm doing is filling in these spots with different detailing. And because I've got some over here, some over here, some over here, it's providing a bit of a harmony to the piece. It's funny, step by step, you're kind of going, oh, where the heck is this going? But at the end of the day, as you take it step by step, it's going to turn into something really beautiful. All right? So once I get some of my basic shapes in there, like here, I'm turning this into leaves just by taking that basic U and adding some detail to it, right? So again, here, like this. Okay. All right. So that's some basic shapes that are going in. There's nothing that's really behind anything at this stage. And for this example, I wanted to keep it beautiful but more simple for you so that you wouldn't feel as maybe overwhelmed or intimidated by just getting on there with some paper and start drawing and meander with your thoughts. The next one, I'm showing you how I'm taking it that one step further, and I'm actually starting to mark out some different shapes here. So I just go like this, and you can see it's like a half leaf, like this one here. Right? And then I can do the same thing over here. This. Okay, and then with my pen, I can start doing some embellishing. So for example, this one, I've chosen to alternate how I do these. And I don't care if the number of petals match. I'm just going around, and then I'm doing some embellishing by going in here, like this. And then I'm blacking some of this out, like that. And all of a sudden you start having things start to pop on your image, right? So like that. And then this one here, I drew a spiral shape. I'm even doing the spirals in different directions. And then I drew in flower petals like this. And it doesn't matter if your hand's a bit shaky, hand-eye coordination improves as you play around and do this type of line work. And here's a perfect time for me to take the brush and see I can start coloring these in with the brush if I want to there. Okay, like that, right. And then I start adding in some extra detailing on the leaves. And you can always erase your pencil lines. I start off with basic pencil lines just to get me going. And see here, I'm going off the page. And then you can start doing some embellishing, right? Like this for your leaves. And on here, you can start putting in your half flower shape here. So there we go, like that. All right, so you kind of get an idea as to what I'm doing when it comes to filling in all these white spaces. It's nice to have a balance between the solid black and the white, so don't be afraid to add in a bunch of black. What looks really nice is having 30%, 70% ratio. You don't have to worry about that, but you'll find that if you leave more white and a little less black or vice versa, that the image is quite pleasing looking. Now, what I had done actually for the finished product of what I've just been demoing here is I actually pre-treated the paper that I worked on with different teas, green tea, a red tea, and fruit tea. And I actually pre-treated the paper. So what I'm going to show you as the end result of this meditative meandering was this project here. I was quite happy with it. And one of the things I did, which I'll get into in the next session, was I actually used a white gel pen and actually got some of the features to stand out where the staining was a little dark with the black ink on top of it. So the next thing I want to show you is some of the things you can do once your artwork is finished. There are other items out there that you can buy. You can buy these pre-cut mats. So it's important if you want to get into using your artwork for giveaway gifts that you pre-size your artwork And so this is a standard size mat. It's got a 5x7, they call it a 5x7 window, but it's actually a 1/4 inch smaller all the way around. And your artwork, I find, always looks nicer when it's matted, right? So there. And then when you buy the pre-cut mats, they fit standard size frames that you can go out and get as well. Okay, and just to show you, again, this one and then behind the mat. Now in this one, I feel I should have gone in and probably done a bit more black in there, but I'm leaving it as is. Alrighty, and then the other thing that you can get are these greeting cards, and they've got a little window in them. So you can insert your artwork and send your artwork off to friends and family, and they can actually take it out of this and frame it. So the other thing I wanted to show you was, if you're at odds for ideas as to where to start, you can trace out the stencils, and then you can use that as a starting point if you want. So you can use a stencil, and you can trace if you want, like this, and trace the different elements like that. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you kind of get the drift, and then you can fill those blanks in, right? Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to show you was you could actually use some leaves as your templates. I love leaves, so obviously a lot of things I do have leaf motifs in them. So you could actually trace around some leaves here, and you could actually use that as a starting point for doing some meditative meanderings. Anything to get your pencil onto the blank piece of paper.
Well, that was really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Jan.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope you and everyone else who's seen this enjoys it and gives it a try. Remember, we all start somewhere, and the more practice you do and the more you enjoy it, the more refined your motor skills will get, and you're just going to have a great time. And it's just such a relaxing, meditative way to let yourself meander.
Absolutely. So Jan, before we hit the road, why don't you tell us a little bit about where the participants or the viewers can find you on the social medias, or if there's a website that we can contact you on?
Sure. There are links to my social media pages on the front page of my website, www.riverwestartworks.com, or I welcome you to email me, and my email address is jan@riverwestartworks.com. So have fun, enjoy, and have a great day.
And thank you, Jan. And as always, you can reach us at RYYZN Community Arts on Instagram and Facebook. You can also email us at ryzngcommunityarts@gmail.com. So thank you so much again for joining us, Jan. I hope you have a really great day.
Thanks, Ty. You take care.